Hello and welcome to the Bacon Bites. My name is Seth Bacon, and today what we're going to do is go through how to create a PowerApp for a user check-in. And so what we've been doing at the last couple of user groups here recently is actually using a PowerApp for member check-in. So as people are showing up and need to either register while they're on site there, what we've been using is actually a PowerApp for that. Prior to using the PowerApp, what we would do is we'd go download the roster, who we were expecting to be there, print it off, hopefully remember to bring it and to the meeting. And then what we would do is hand around the paper so that way people could go ahead and sign in and say, yep, I was here, I attended. And so that way we had a good count of how many people actually came. One of the issues is that people would invite friends to the meetings that hadn't registered yet. And so they would have to write down their names and hopefully we could read their handwriting afterwards. So what we did is we created a PowerApp, and that's what we're going to go through today, is actually creating that PowerApp and showing you how we did that. So what we're going to do is let's go ahead and show what the roster looks like. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Excel file that we typically got. So we've gone ahead and uploaded it to OneDrive because this is what we'll actually be using. And here we have the roster. This is the people we expect to be attending coming up. So very simple, straightforward, first name, last name, some additional information about them. That's something that we can just go ahead and update fairly easily. And so now let's go ahead and jump over to the PowerApp and see how we're going to create it from this table, this data set. So first, when we're going to create the PowerApp, what we're going to do is go ahead and click Create an App. This time it's going to be a Canvas app. And we have a couple of options here. And the option we're going to go with is actually using OneDrive for Business as our data source. So because I've already made that connection before, you'll see it there. We're going to go ahead and choose an Excel file. You'll see that that Excel file is there already. And we're going to go ahead and choose Table 2. These are the tables that are on the Excel file that the connector is recognizing as coming up. So let's go ahead and click Connect. You do have the ability to go ahead and rename those tables directly in Excel, so that way it's a little easier to keep track of if you want to have multiple meetings on one Excel file. Great. So here's the PowerApp. First thing we're going to do is we're actually going to turn it to landscape instead of portrait. So to do that, we're going to go to File. From File, we're going to go to Screen Size and Orientation, and we're going to make it landscape. And then let's go ahead and in the bottom right-hand corner, there's Apply. So we've gone ahead and applied that setting. So we're going to go ahead and go back, and now it's landscape. Now it doesn't look like much yet. And the reason for that is right now, what the fields that it's pulling in are columns 1, city, and attended. That's not super helpful. So let's go ahead and first change it to be title and subtitle. So we're just going to have 2 columns. And what we're going to do is we're going to have the last name, and we're going to have the first name. And so that information will populate just here in a second. So let's go ahead and go over. First, we're going to need to close out the Excel file. So right now it's locked, and so it's not bringing any of the data over. So once we close that and go refresh our data source, that should bring in the data for us. There we go. So now we've gone ahead and seen the data come over. Now let's take a quick look at what the PowerApp currently has. It has a browse screen, it has an edit, and a detail screen. And that's going to be fairly good because that's pretty much what we need. Let's go ahead and change this from Table 2 to, let's change the title to PowerApps and Flow User Group. Awesome. And the other thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and change this to be more of a PowerApp color. So let's go ahead and choose that nice purple. So already you can start seeing some of the theming that's coming around, and all of this, we just went ahead and jumped in and got started. Next thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and order this. So right now this is being ordered, not really, it is, but so what we're going to do is we're going to change that. So let's go to Advanced here. So we've selected the gallery. After we select the gallery, we're going to go to Advanced. And here we have different navigation tools, but right here we have the ability to search. So these items, we don't actually want to search the attended. We probably want to search last name and first name. And let's actually do company as well. And then right here we have the option to sort. So what do we want it to sort by? So first, you see here that we changed the search and what it's searching across. Next, we actually want it to based on the last name is how we want it to sort, whether it's ascending or descending. And there you go. Now you see that it goes ahead and sorts. And if we wanted to, what we could do is we'll go ahead and test that out. And so if I wanted to look for, if I look for ON, you see that Cannon comes in, Big comes in, Anderson comes in. If we look for Maria, you can find that. And so very quickly you can see that we're searching either by first name or last name. And so people can, when they log in, they can go ahead and on the app, they can search for themselves, or what they can do is they can scroll and try to find themselves that way. So, but depending on how many users we have, it may be a little tougher to find. So we'll go ahead and go back. So next, what are the actions that we want them to take? Well, one of them is if their information is incorrect. So if their information is incorrect, we want to make sure that we have the most up-to-date information. So what we ask them to do is, if you want to go ahead and click on here, we notice that we can see their information. There's a couple of things we need to do here. So first, let's go ahead and work on our theming a little, just so that way we're having consistency. So let's go to that rectangle and change that rectangle fill to be that purple. And next thing we're going to do here is we actually want to bring in, so we're going to browse gallery 1, the selected item. And what we're going to do is put the header up there and to make it dynamic. So if it's selected, if we want to bring that in, we're going to bring in first name. And so now we can see Nancy. And then the next thing we want to do is add a little space there. And then what I'm going to do is actually copy this and do last name as well. So now what we can see is when somebody clicks on their name, they see their name up in the header up top there, which is great. We're actually going to remove the delete here. We want to keep their information. We want to see that they were registered before, or if they got updated. If they were unable to attend, we don't want them to delete it. We don't want that kind of stuff. So what we're going to do is go ahead and remove that trash. So one of the things we have to be mindful of is, you notice here that the width is going to be dynamic based on other icons that are in here. So we're going to go ahead and remove this icon width here. And so that is going to allow that width to expand the whole thing. And now when we select the trash icon, we can go ahead and remove that without impacting the other components there. Next thing we're going to do is actually edit the table down here. So right now it's kind of this hodgepodge of stuff. So let's go ahead and edit. Let's make this a 2 columns. So already you can see that that's helpful. Vertical layout over under. The other option there, of course, is horizontal. So if you wanted to see it next to it, but let's go ahead and leave it as vertical. Let's change the fields. Attended, we're going to actually use that as a check mark. And so we'll go ahead and get rid of that. What I don't see here is first name. So let's go ahead and add first name and last name. And we see that those get added. Let's go ahead and bring those up to the top here. And now that those are up to the top, column, we can remove that. Company is good. Title is good. Country, we don't need the country. Email summary, we'll talk about that later. And that's starting to look good. So we got first name, last name, email address, city, company, and title. Okay, that's good. Next thing let's do, let's go ahead and edit the fields. And so you see the display is first name and it's all together. And again, a lot of times you'll see this in the schema. So what we're going to do is actually on this record, we're going to unlock it. So right now we have the card itself. So we're going to unlock that card and go into display name and just enter a space right there. And we'll do that with last name as well. Just a quick space. Email address. Let's go ahead and just drop the address portion of this and just say email. City looks good. Company title. We'll go ahead and drop that as well. And so there's the title. So already you can see a number of things. So first name, email, company, last name, city. Okay, good. And now if we click edit, so if they wanted to change their information, they click edit. And what you notice here is we've actually navigated to the edit screen right here. So what we're going to do is make some of those same changes. So the rectangle, go ahead and add the purple there. We'll go ahead and add the properties here. We'll make the same changes. So as we're going through this, we just got a couple of more things. The country, we'll go ahead and drop that off as well. So we got first name, last name. That's all looks good. We'll make it 2 columns to match the other one. So first name, last name, column 1 is not what we want. We need to add the city back, and there we go. So now we have consistent layouts across both of those. The other thing we need to do here is go ahead and update the name like we did before. So let's update it so that way the display of that item is consistent. It makes sense. So we got a couple of items right there that we've gone ahead and updated the display name, gone through, email address being the last one there. And the title. Great. So the other thing we want to do is the display up top here. So what we'll do is we'll go back to the other screen, the detailed screen, and what we're going to do is take the text, and what we can do is go ahead and bring that in and add that to as our text here. And when we do that, you notice that that comes through. And then if we play this, this changes. Eventually that'll change as well after we do the save. So we haven't fired that and told it to wait for a change there. So just things to be mindful of is that they will need to go ahead and save that, and that's going to write it back to the file for us. And now you'll notice that it does change it there. So we'll go ahead and change that back to Nancy. Great. So we've done a couple of things. We've gone ahead and allowed them to edit their information, which is good. The other thing we need to do is allow them to mark if they're here. And so what we're going to do with that is back on the gallery, on the browse, we're going to choose the gallery itself. And so we're going to have the whole gallery. And then let's go ahead and choose this first record. So this first record, whatever we do to this first record, is going to be reflected in the subsequent records on the page there. So if we go ahead and do an input and do a checkbox, you notice there that all of the checkboxes come through. So on this, what we're going to do is update the on check and the on uncheck action. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a patch. And what we want to do is we're going to patch in to this table. It's going to say, what is our source? Where are we going with this? And then what do we want it to do? So if we want it to, how does it know which record? So we're going to do this item. And then what we need to do is tell it, what do we want to do with this item? So now it's found the table. It's found the row. Now what we want to do is find the column. So we're going to do attended. So what we want to do with attended is if they check it, we want to say here, and there we go. So if they come in and they check it, we want to mark on our Excel file that they're here. If we uncheck it, we just want to clear that out. So also on the select, what we're going to do is remove that. So when somebody selects it, we actually don't want it to take any action other than writing to the database. The other thing we want to do is default. So if we already have a value in the Excel file, we actually want it to check or uncheck for us. So if we want to go ahead and do an if statement. So if this item dot attended equals here, just like what we had written above, then what we want to do is go ahead and say it's true. And if not, it's false. And so now what we have the option to do is when we check this, it's going to go ahead and write into the table, and we'll go take a look at this real quick. Here in the table, we can see that Nancy's was updated with here. Perfect. So let's go ahead and close that file so that way it doesn't read it as locked. So now we've gone ahead and allowed them, if they want to view their information, they can view it and do that, which is great. If they want to go ahead and select an option and choose here, that's great. The other thing let's go ahead and reuse this concept right here of this if statement. Let's change the text. So if the text for this item, see, it already is true and false, what we actually want to do is let's go ahead and make it here and not here, right? So these ones are not here and these ones are here. And so again, based on the value that's being passed in, it's going to be based on that check mark. So if we go ahead and check that, it's going to write it and then it's going to update that for us. So just a little thing like that can make it a fair bit easier. Let's go ahead and make this a little smaller so that way we can put it right there. That looks good. Everything's lined up nicely. So if they do check on their name and they say, yep, this information's correct, the other option we want to do there is go ahead and allow them to make that update for them and mark that they're here in this location. So let's go back. And to do this, what I'm doing is holding Alt. If you hold Alt, you're able to interact with the app itself directly. So just a small quick note there. Let's go ahead and actually copy this. I'm going to do Control C. And then what I'm going to do is push Alt and go to the next page and just Control V. And so I can put this up in the header. And so right here, it's going to show up. Let's go ahead and you'll notice here that this formula needs to be updated. So right now it knows what's table, but this item, because it's out of context of a record or a form, it doesn't know which one to grab. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that function of the browse gallery again, and then the selected one that came through. And here you see that updating that told it which row to grab out of the system, out of that file. So what we're going to do is just highlight this. I went ahead and copied it, so we're going to go ahead and paste it over. So anywhere we have this item, what we're going to do is replace it like that. And great. The other thing I want to do is, because it's here, what we want to do is probably change the text color to white, so that way it's easier to see up top there. But now what they can do is they can mark it here, and you notice that the little things are going across. So they're not here, and now when we look back out here, that's been updated. So if we go to Seth's record, and I say that I'm here, and now I go into that record, and you see that those are responding off the same field. Great. So what we've done is we've gone through and allowed them to go ahead and select their records and allowed them to search for themselves and then either update it or they can go ahead and mark that they're here. And all the while that's being updated directly in our Excel file for us. So that way we can make an update later. The other thing we want to do and be mindful of is maybe we want to have new people join us, and how do they get registered on site? So if we go ahead and click the plus button, so holding Alt, go ahead and click the plus button, you notice that we're able to edit this, which is great, and we can create a new one. But what happens is that we're using the same screen we did for the edit. So the edit and the new can both use the same one, but the form types are different. So up top here, what we want to do is actually add an if statement. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that out. And what we're going to do is an if statement to look at the form. So this is looking at edit form. So this form down here. So edit form mode. If the edit form mode equals form mode dot edit, then what we want to do is drop that logic that we had in there before. And if not, what we're going to do is say new member. And that goes ahead and does that for us. So using the if statement, we can go ahead and reuse that same screen around that. And so now it knows that this is a new member. If we were to go back and look at Nancy again, we see that Nancy, so again, that same one is coming through when we click the edit. And so again, that formula is there as well. So again, there's a number of ways and things that it's automatically passing through for us, which is great. So if we click on the plus sign, we can have a new person join us. I'll go ahead and play this now. So we had a new person join us. David Johnson joined us. David J at company.com in Seattle. And the company itself, again, just putting some more information in there. And he's a manager. And so we can go ahead and click the check mark there. That'll go ahead and drop us back out here. And what we can see here is that David Johnson is now there. Some other actions that we could take on that is depending on how the form is, if we want to hit the submit, we maybe want to go ahead and check them in because they've entered their information. And so we can do other things like that as well. So overall, just a quick run through on how we've built out a Power App that allows people to check in and register on site, all within and connected to an Excel file, which has been a huge help for us. The other thing that we're going to do here shortly is actually add an opportunity for them to subscribe to our emails, so that way they can get notified and we can make sure that they're receiving a summary of the meeting notes and everything. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you found it helpful, make sure you hit the like button and let us know that you enjoyed it. If you want to use this for your own user group, feel free to build it out. It's fairly easy and straightforward. If you like the solution file, be sure to check out the link down below in the description that has more information at our blog, thebaconbytes.com. Be sure to hit subscribe so you know when we post next time, and we look forward to catching you next time. Later.